This is one of those off the beaten path trails. In fact, this path looks to only be beaten by the rain. These trails that aren't maintained are some of the most fun for us. You never quite know what you're going to come upon. For instance, washouts, large patches of weeds, plenty of snakes, lots of spider webs. You feel like you've stepped back in time. The trail suddenly opens and you come upon these power lines. These follow all the way up onto that ridge up there. That's where we're going to be climbing to. It's quite a climb from down here. I love it. It's hot. There's no breeze. And there is a sign on that pole that says hazardous terrain ahead. Now, I don't know if that sign is for hikers or for men working on the lines. I'm gonna guess for the folks working on the power lines, you know, based on the fact that that next pole, we're seeing the top of it over the edge here versus that one there. So that looks like a fair bit of a drop off. This is definitely a place to keep an eye out for snakes. Very dry, rocky, and sandy. We do have some timber rattlers in this part of the country. However, in my thousands of miles of hiking east of the Mississippi, I've only ever seen one, maybe two timber rattlers. Copperheads are far more common. Whew, it's a hot one. It's like walking through the desert. But just as soon as you get to the opening, you're gonna get back to woods again, which is great on a day like today. That shade is a welcome sight. My hike's about to get tougher. This little man's getting loaded into his carrier. I'm about to carry 35 pounds on my back up to this big ridge that's coming up. We're gonna be climbing way up there. It's gonna be fun. And that, my friends, is what I mean by overgrown. Beautiful views over there to the James River Face Wilderness. The views get even better right up here. Checking for snakes through here is definitely essential. This is super overgrown brush, and snakes would not be used to human beings coming through here. So I don't want an encounter for my sake and the sake of the snake. Incredible views up here today. You feel like you're kind of on top of the world there, looking across at those ridges. Most of those ridges are about 3,000 to 3,500 feet high. We're not quite at eye level, those are a little higher. Here's our hazardous terrain sign again on that pole. I think the hazardous terrain they're referring to is that down that way. And that little town down there, if you see the buildings, I believe that is Glasgow, Virginia. And then a couple miles that way, behind that ridge, is Natural Bridge, Virginia. This is what our trail ahead looks like. What trail, right? That's where we just came through. Love it. Sometimes you gotta walk around with no trail until you find it. I can smell it, we're close. Trick with this, in this area, is I know that the trail does find the high point of the ridgeline here. So staying at the high point of the ridgeline is the way to go, because you're eventually going to hit the trail anyway. But it's always good to know how to navigate when you're in the woods, whether you're familiar with the area or not. The wind has found us. On a day like today, any little bit of breeze is spectacular, especially when you're in the shade like this. It feels great. It's a great day for a hike right now. The breeze is blowing finally. We're in the shade with a little bit of sun. It's a pretty neat slope that we're hiking along right here. We did not go all the way to the top of Little Rocky today because we've got some place we need to be this afternoon. Wow, look at that slope down there. This slope is definitely one that's been through a forest fire probably in the last 10 to 15 years. The trees have definitely been thinned out, and a lot of them are young trees. There's just a few really large trees that survived. Probably because they were so big, the fire passed by before it could catch on to them. Pretty neat.